Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 557, September 23rd, 2018. Sunday morning. Welcome to the late weekend edition of TowerGate. Alrighty my friends, this nightmare may be coming to an end. Here is the latest on what's going on with the Kavanaugh hearings. It appears now that the lawyers for the accuser of Judge Kavanaugh have agreed to her coming to testify on Thursday. Now, this is not really locked in stone because the details apparently are still being worked out. They're still negotiating, which means probably that the accuser, her attorneys, are probably looking for another way to delay or get her out of it so that she doesn't have to come and lie under oath. So they're still working out the details. That's not exactly locked in, but they have apparently agreed on Thursday. We'll see if that actually happens. We'll see. If I were a betting man, I wouldn't bet a penny on it, especially based on what we know now. Here is the latest information we now have. It appears that of the 3 additional witnesses, besides Judge Kavanaugh, the 3 additional witnesses, we now know all their names. They have now given statements under oath, testified as to the allegations that are being made. So now we have everyone. We, of course, know about the accuser. We know about the accused. That would be Judge Kavanaugh. And now we know the names of all 3 of the other people named as witnesses by the accuser and her lawyers, which was, of course, not given to us directly, but this was... apparently, reporters at the Washington Post had these names, and it appears that investigators working for the Senate have been able to get in contact with the reporters at the Washington Post and have gotten the names. So now we have all 3 of the people who the accuser uses as witnesses to back up her claim. They are Mrs. Leland Ingram Kaiser, Mr. Mark Judge, and Mr. Patrick Smythe. Here are their statements. Mrs. Kaiser, the last witness to be identified, says she does not know Mr. Kavanaugh, has no recollection of ever being at a party or gathering where he was present with or without Dr. Ford. She is denied this under penalty of perjury. This was the statement for her lawyer speaking on her behalf. And she is being described by the attorneys for the accuser as a lifelong friend. So this is a lifelong friend of the accuser who had been identified, Mrs. Kaiser. She's saying she doesn't know Kavanaugh, has no recollection of ever being at the party, the gathering where he was present with or without Dr. Ford, the accuser. Next we have Mark Judge. He says he does not recall the party and never saw Brett Kavanaugh act in the manner the accuser describes. He has signed a sworn statement under penalty of perjury. We have Patrick Smythe. His statement is that I have no knowledge of the party in question, nor do I have knowledge of the allegations of improper conduct that she has leveled against Brett Kavanaugh. He has stated this under penalty of perjury as well. So that's the 3 witnesses all stating under penalty of perjury that they know nothing about the party and nothing about Judge Kavanaugh ever engaging in any of these activities. Then we have Brett Kavanaugh himself, who's denied multiple times knowing the accuser or ever attending such a party or acting in the way she described by the accuser, of acting that way against any woman at any time or any place. He has made this statement under penalty of perjury as well. That leaves the accuser, who so far has refused to testify under oath nor file a formal complaint with the local police in the jurisdiction where the alleged crime was to have taken place. So there we go. We have now all the witnesses that are supposed to be backing up the story of the accuser. Mr. Smythe, Mr. Judge, and Mrs. Kaiser, all saying under penalty of perjury they cannot back up her story. They all deny knowing anything about the party. They all deny knowing anything about Kavanaugh acting, ever knowing or seeing him act in this way toward anyone. There you go. There's her witnesses. As well as Judge Kavanaugh, his own personal testimony under oath. That should just about do it, don't you think? Do you think she still wants to come and testify? Considering the very 3 witnesses, including this woman who's supposed to be a lifelong friend, Miss Kaiser, all denying having any knowledge of any of this. And why is this? What would be the issue here? We have all 3 of the witnesses named as witnesses who are supposedly there, who all say that they weren't there, don't know what she's talking about, and know nothing about these allegations. Well, what that tells us is that what we already knew, what this is basically bullshit, lies. It was a political stunt, just as I've been saying. And based on this, what I would have to say to Senator Grassley is that you need to stop it. Right now, stop it. Shut it down. Shut it down. Have the vote on Monday. In light of the new evidence that we have, that all the witnesses completely contradict the accuser's story, there's no need really to go forward, is there? Do we really need to drag her into Washington and embarrass her that way? Put her in a position where she has to lie under oath? She took a shot. She gave it a good shot. But unfortunately, Feinstein and her friends bobbled it. They bobbled it badly. You would think that her attorneys would have contacted these people first, knowing good and well what their names were. I told you I didn't think Miss Katz was a very good attorney. But see, they never expected it to go this far. They were supposed to make the accusations and start the circus and keep her identity hidden. But when the circus didn't get the results they wanted, they had no choice but to make an 11th hour drop of her name and identity to reveal the details, hoping they could use this to create enough of a frenzy to maybe force Kavanaugh to back out or to get it delayed, hoping that they would win in the midterms, which they're not going to, but hoping they would win in the midterms and they could upset the apple cart then. But it didn't work out. They bobbled it, they blew it, they botched it badly. Based on this new evidence, if I were Grassley, I would call that lawyer, Miss Katz, say, Miss Katz, we have now interviewed all the witnesses under penalty of perjury. They've all made formal statements under oath, all denying it. Now, if in fact Grassley has already made in stone this agreement to have this thing on Thursday, then I guess they have to go ahead and do it. But there can be no more playing games. If you're Grassley, if there's more negotiations or they're still discussing how and who's going to testify, bullshit. That's out the door. That's over. There's too much overwhelming evidence that her story is bullshit. Therefore, Grassley, now that we have this information, the final witness, and they all contradict the accuser's story, Grassley just needs to call and say, man, this thing's ugly. You really want your client coming out here Thursday? Because here's how it's going to go, based on everything we have now. Because it's looking like this was a big political stunt, okay? We're going to give your client a chance to back out of this thing quietly and go away. And we'll have our nomination and we'll move on. But if you bring her out here, she better expect she's going to face some pretty serious questions because all the witnesses contradict her. So here's the way it's going to be. We've already promised you Thursday. So you come out here on Thursday, but that's it. That's the only thing we're giving up. We're letting you have Thursday. We wanted Wednesday. We'll give you Thursday. But we are going to have lawyers, that could be male or female or both, questioning, cross-examining your client. She will go first. There will be a camera there. And there are no other things left to negotiate. She's going to come and testify. She's going to testify first. Kavanaugh doesn't have to be there, but she does. And she's got to answer all the questions. And there will be lawyers asking questions. Period. That's the deal. Thursday. And we need to know by Monday at noon if, in fact, you agree to these terms. If not, we're having the hearings. Monday at noon. If we don't hear from you, we're going to vote on Monday. That's it. Boom. Now, let's see what else we've learned. Well, let's just cover a couple things. Some of this stuff is completely irrelevant now that I'm reading because of the latest information. So bear with me for just a moment here. Let's have a quick review of the Turn In Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein. Let's have a quick review of her and how badly she played this. This should get her ridden out of the Senate. This should be it. Feinstein, Turn In Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein should resign. She should resign. This was a political stunt and it's now been exposed as such. And she knew it. We can't have this. She should be, at the very least, censored. She still hasn't turned over that letter, the unredacted, but I don't think we need it anymore. We've got the testimony of 3 of the witnesses that were brought forward by her. These are the people that she says are witnesses who contradict her story. Feinstein received that letter in July. Pretty much about the same time that the Democratic operative Ricky Seidman, or Seidman, however you want to say it, contacted the accuser. Turn In Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein received that letter at that time, at the end of July, and told no one. Turn In Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein did not raise the issue when she met privately with Kavanaugh. Turn In Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America did not tell other Democrats so that they could raise the issue. Keep in mind, they had 64 meetings with Kavanaugh. Turn In Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein did not attend the private hearing where she could have raised the issue with Judge Kavanaugh. Turn In Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein did not put in any questions into the written part of the exam for Judge Kavanaugh. There were 1,300 questions. Turn In Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein did not ask one single question about this incident in those 1,300 questions. And of course, as I just mentioned, she still hasn't turned over the unredacted letter. The Republican investigators in the Senate committee have had to do all the legwork themselves. They probably don't need the letter now because they've essentially, it appears their investigators have spoken with the journalists at the Washington Post and have gotten what they need. Not one single Democrat, including Turn In Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein, attended the Kavanaugh session on Monday. When Kavanaugh came in, requesting nothing but just a chance to make his statement, when he came in on Monday, under oath, to go on the record to deny these charges, not one single Democrat showed up to cross-examine him or question him. They had the opportunity to do that. Turn In Your Guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein did not even show up to question Kavanaugh nor any of her investigators, anyone on her staff, no one, no Democrats. He came and made a statement. No one showed up from the Democratic Party or the Senate Committee, Judicial Committee. Not a staffer, not a person, not a one, no one. The fact is, though, all these Democrats and all their friends have been all over the media. They've had no problem going on CNN and MSNBC and ABC and NBC and PBS and everywhere else. But they couldn't show up to the hearings to cross-examine Kavanaugh. Then we find out some other despicable things. We find out that these two lawyers, Ms. Katz and the other attorney, who obviously works for the DNC, who are now representing her, they were going to be appearing at a campaign rally, at a fundraiser, with the senator from Wisconsin, Tammy Baldwin. But as soon as word got out, or to obviously some legal people at the DNC, who were pretty much running the show, they of course had to advise them that would be a very bad idea. The attorneys representing the accuser going to a fundraiser for a senator who is going to be voting on that particular judge. Not a good idea, really. You know what I mean? Not a good idea. So these are stupid lawyers as well. Now, even thinking that they would go to a fundraiser for a senator who's going to be voting on the judge. These are some whacked out lesbos right here, man. With TDS, obviously. Because we know both of their backgrounds. Both of these lawyers. We also know about the political operative who's been involved in this since from the very beginning. And this is probably, my guess is we're going to find out that the contact with her happened even before that, and that this entire plot probably even happened before that. This plot maybe didn't just start in the end of July. Maybe they've had this cooking for several months, maybe longer. We should also, as I mentioned earlier, but point out that at no time during this entire process, since these accusations have been made, at no time has the accuser or her attorneys gone to the District of Criminals where this happened, Washington and the District of Criminals. None of them have gone to file a formal complaint with the local police department there, which would have local jurisdiction. There is no statute of limitations on this type of crime or allegation. No statute of limitations. They would be the people who you would file the complaint with, who could investigate it. They've made no effort to do so. They've filed no criminal complaint, no formal complaint whatsoever with the police department in the area, the Washington District of Criminals area where this took place. That would be the D.C. Metro Police. They've made no effort whatsoever to file a police report or a complaint. Why not? Why do you think that is? Maybe because it's bullshit. Here's something else. We're now learning that Michael Bromwich, the attorney for Andy McCabe, has now joined the legal team. Boy, that's bad timing, don't you think? The very day that she joined the legal team, they discover the final witness, and she too contradicts the story. All the witnesses contradict the story, and here comes Mr. Bromwich. Maybe, I forgot to mention, did I mention to you that he happens to be, or it was, Andy McCabe's lawyer? Oh, yes, that's right. He's McCabe's lawyer. He's also the guy who set up that GoFundMe for Andy McCabe. Do you think he's going over to help the accuser here set up her GoFundMe so that she can raise $500,000? That's a nice little payday for participating in this scheme, don't you think? Not to mention the other perks that she'll be getting along the way. Probably a good job at a Ivy League school. Some other things that we probably don't know about. She'll become a hero to the left. Although she may be destroyed at this point, this pretty much might be the final nail in her coffin. It should, but we're dealing with a lot of Democrats here. they're pretty stupid. They're pretty stupid. They could completely ignore it. You could say, you could go up to any Democrat who believes this accuser, and you could now lay onto them the fact that all the witnesses that she gave us have all disputed, contradicted her story. They would still believe it. They would just completely dismiss that. Oh, okay, well, I still believe her. That's right. So Mr. Bromwich, when he decided to jump into this fray, he was, of course, told by the law partners there at the law firm where he works, which is a very high-dollar law firm. He makes a lot of money. They told him that they didn't really like the idea. They didn't like the PR aspect of it. So he said, okay, well, if you won't let me do this, then I'll leave the law firm. So Bromwich has actually left the law firm. Left his job so that he could go jump in this fray. Maybe he thinks it's more lucrative. Or maybe he's looking at the situation with Andy, and he realizes that Andy is going to prison. It's a loser. Maybe he wants to get out of that law firm so he can stop having to represent McCabe, who he knows is going down. That would go as an L in his column, win-loss column, whereas Mr. Bromwich wanted a big loser like McCabe. I mean, he's already pretty much probably drained McCabe of most of his money. He's going to be running out of money because now his GoFundMe is not popular anymore. It was popular for about a week or two, and he pulled down about, over $500,000. So now, Mr. Bromwich will probably go over and set up a GoFundMe for this accuser. And she'll probably clean up, make about $500,000 maybe herself, and then of course she'll be discovered to have been a fraud, just like McCabe. Now McCabe's going to prison, and that wouldn't look very good for Mr. Bromwich. So it looks like he's trying to kill two birds with one stone, trying to get out from underneath his association with this law firm that's handling McCabe, where he is the lawyer that's doing the work, knowing good and well it's a loser, and the money's going to dry up here very soon, and he gets out of it. And he goes over and tries something more lucrative, what he thinks will be more lucrative. Of course, he made that decision yesterday, and the news about this latest accuser just came out today. So, kind of bad timing for Mr. Bromwich, don't you think? So, that is where we are on the Kavanaugh situation. As I said, at this point, Grassley, he's got the entire game in his hand. He should shut this thing down immediately. He's holding all the cards. He has all the leverage. He should contact this attorney immediately, for the accuser and let her know what the deal is. He should never have let this thing slide to Thursday. But if he's done that, if he's made that agreement, fine. He's made that agreement. Get back with that attorney. It's okay. You've agreed on Thursday. The other things are not up for vote. I told you what the deal is. Thursday is the day. And if you are not planning on doing that, coming here on Thursday and following what we said that you need to do in terms of the details of how that's going to play out, how it's going to go down, if you can't handle that, let us know by Monday at noon. You must confirm by Monday at noon that you'll agree to all the conditions of the hearing on Thursday. And if we don't hear from you confirming that by noon on Monday, we're going to have the vote. Now, based on what's happened recently, in the past 12 hours, I would say the chances of her testifying are getting less and less likely. They'll try to find some reason so that she doesn't have to come out here and testify, knowing good and well that the only witnesses that she's given us, the 4 people she says would be the witnesses, all contradict her story. And the whole thing's blowing up on her. And there's a lot of things going on in her past that people are looking into right now that will shed particular questions about her character. That's where we are. Unbelievable. Epic fail for turning your guns at Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein and the Democrats. Epic fail. I don't know how they can possibly spin this, but we'll watch CNN and see how they try to spin it. It'll be very interesting watching them try to spin this. Not a single witness that she gives us can confirm her story. That's pretty bad. When you say, yeah, here's my witnesses, and none of your witnesses confirm your story. They all contradict it. That is generally not good. And how the attorneys representing her allowed it that to happen is just mind-boggling. If my attorney did that to me, I'd be so pissed. I certainly wouldn't pay the legal fee. I might sue them. I might sue my own damn lawyers for incompetence, malpractice, legal malpractice. Because they're setting this woman up to come in and under oath, make a very strong accusation. There are Democratic operatives involved here. This entire scenario has been pretty much been run by Schumer and the figureheads and the DNC probably, along with their strategists and various other people. This has been a DNC plot, like all the other DNC plots. Finally, Rob Goldstone. Rob Goldstone, of course, is the British music publicist who wrote that obvious setup letter to Trump Jr. to set up the Trump Tower meeting. In his most recent statement to congressional investigators, he stated that he doesn't really believe the PP-Gate story. And the reason being, he says that while Trump was in Moscow for that 36 hours, that he was with Trump for 31 of the 36 hours. The only 5 hours he says that he was not with Trump was the 5 hours when Trump went up to his hotel room to sleep. At which time we know that Trump's personal bodyguard stood by that door until about 3:30 a.m. Trump got up and resumed his activities around a little after 5. This is why there would have been practically no opportunity for this to even happen. Mr. Goldstone is now saying it's all overblown, that he was with Trump 31 of the 36 hours, doesn't see how it was possible for there to have even been a PP-Gate situation even go down. That's according to Rob Goldstone. Finally, we talked just a little bit the other day about this declassification and the fact that Trump made the comment that 2 foreign allies had an issue with the declassification and that they wanted to talk about it. So what do you think that they wanted to talk about? Yeah, let's kind of imagine how that conversation went. The ally, probably the UK and of course Australia, probably wanted to call up Trump and say, we're not real happy about you wanting to declassify that because there's some stuff in there that involves us that doesn't make us look too good. Could be embarrassing. There could even be criminal liability. A lot of people are quite nervous. But, we have a lot of files. We have a lot of information. And it is possible that some information we have could find itself being declassified or released or leaked. Now, we've been in contact with some folks there in the intelligence community and at the DOJ and FBI and some of our friends in Washington. We've discussed with them some of the materials that might find their way into the public, which could be quite embarrassing for the United States and some very, very high-profile people. Many of them holding high positions in the government right now. There could also be some things that we could reveal that would possibly even lead to criminal liability for certain persons in the U.S. associated with the government, intelligence agencies, and so forth. You know how this information, when it gets declassified or leaked, can cause a lot of problems. So we really hope, Mr. President, that you don't declassify any of that stuff that could do some embarrassment or possible legal jeopardy for us here in the UK or Australia. You hold on to what you got and we'll hold on to what we have. And everybody will be fine. But if you want to sling the crap, we got some crap to sling too. Just wanted to let you know that. Thanks for calling. That is pretty much how that conversation probably went. Let's see. We have a poll from Huffington Post. Only 25% of women believe the accuser. That was before we heard about the fourth witness. But now that we have the fourth witness, now it's like the third poll I've seen. I'm not a big fan of polls because right now they're being weaponized as I speak. That was going to be something I was going to talk about, just haven't had time the past 2 days. I've been working a little bit on the election stuff, just haven't had time to get to it because of the other breaking news. But as I said a couple weeks ago, they're running the exact same game that they were running back in 2016 where they put out the fake polls. You know, telling us that these Democrats have all these leads. They still believe that. I've already gone on record, if you're not aware of it, I've already gone on record and said not only is there not going to be a blue wave, I don't think that the Democrats are going to win the House. I think Republicans are going to hold the House, and pretty easily. I said about 2 weeks ago, and I'm sticking with it, that the best Democrats do is +5. They could do as bad as -5. +5 and -5, somewhere in there. They need 24, 25 seats. Ain't going to happen. +5 or -5. If it's, you know, if they don't pick up any seats, that'll be considered, that'll be the end for the leadership, current leadership of the Democratic Party. That will be the end of them. Finally, yeah, did I tell you 25% of women don't believe the accuser? I think I did. Now, one last thing. Here's a prediction, another election prediction. I don't believe that Ocasio-Cortez is going to win her seat in Congress. She's pretending that she's already become the congressperson there. I don't think she understands that there's actually an election. She won a primary, but now she's got to win the general. Now, the Republican's not going to win in her district, but guess who else she has to run against? The guy she beat, Crowley. He didn't go away. Oh, no. He's back. They have about 7 or 8 different parties you can run under in New York. So he picked another party to run under, and I can assure you he will not be caught sleeping again. And the corporate Democrats don't want Ocasio-Cortez anywhere near them. She's toxic. So that you can bet they'll pull out all the stops to make sure they don't get caught sleeping again. And I believe that Mr. Crowley is going to win that seat, and Ocasio-Cortez is going to be defeated. That's my prediction. Thank you so much for tuning in. See ya. Bye.